The story begins with Dong-won and his family who have just moved to a new house. It was also raining heavily at that time, but the furniture had not yet been moved because the truck was blocked by a car. Until finally the car owner appeared, who put on a cynical face and then moved his car recklessly. Dong-won is very comfortable living in their new house, until the next day a strange thing is found where the floor of the house looks like it's tilted. Even a marble can just roll without being touched. Arriving at Dong-won's office, he is congratulated on his new home, but after he informs him of the location of his new home, his office colleagues are immediately shocked because the place is a former industrial complex and sewage treatment plant, so it is considered unfit to live in. Don't want to bother with it by directly cutting. At night, it rained very hard and at the same time the building cracked and even the glass door there cracked. The next morning Sung-yeon was shocked by the cracked glass door. He tried to touch it and it broke. In addition, Dong-won also finds that the ground floor of his building has a severe crack, which of course cannot be left alone. All the neighbors were gathered to discuss this issue. In the end this meeting did not get results, because they were instead busy discussing personal problems with each other. One day Dong-won's office friends come to his new house and they are amazed by the beautiful view from above. Then the program continues with eating and drinking together until late at night. The next morning two of Dong-won's colleagues had left early, while the rest of them spent the night there, named Yoon-ju and Kim. On the other hand, Dong-won's wife and children have just returned from shopping. Here they run into Aunt Mina and her husband, who are going to the bathhouse because the water in their house is dead. Then Dong-won's son, Shweekin, wants to take the trolley home to help his mother carry the groceries. After waking up, Kim rushed to leave because he had an appointment with a client, but the taxi driver was busy calling, which irritated him. Meanwhile, Shweekin seemed to have brought a trolley and was about to return to his mother, but suddenly the marble fell, so he tried to pick it up from under the car. At the same time Sung-yeon was talking about the dead water in his house to the man in the opposite building. Then suddenly there was a very loud shaking. And immediately the building where he lived began to fall down. Of course this was not a mass natural disaster because only that one building fell. But also not to be underestimated because the building was mired hundreds of meters deep into the ground. Below, the taxi car that Kim was riding kept moving here and there. Of course, this was very dangerous. Just a little slip to the wrong side and the car would be squashed between the wall of the hole and the building. But fortunately Dong-won was quick to help him. After that Hae-jun also managed to survive as well as Sung-won. Moving on to the top, where the rescue team begins to devise a plan to save the victims. Several people were lowered using ropes, but the walls of the hole continued to slide, so they had to find another way. Moving on to Sung-won, who suddenly panicked considering that his son was still not found. After searching almost desperately, Sung-tae was finally found locked in a room. Knowing this difficult condition, Sung-tae tried to calm down while devising a strategy to survive. In fact, Dong-won is also worried for his family, but he can rest easy knowing that his wife and children were shopping when this tragedy occurred. So the most important thing now is that they have to survive at all costs, even though the conditions are getting worse with the heavy rain. This incident did not escape the media spotlight. An expert said that the cause of this incident was the sinking of the foundation. Meanwhile, Dong-won's wife looks helpless knowing her husband is one of the victims. This time the rescue team lowered the drone to find out the conditions below. Unfortunately the drone suddenly lost signal, then fell free. Seeing that, Sung-tae immediately calls the others. They also tried to communicate via drone cameras, but suddenly the building fell back down. When Kim almost fell, Hae-jun rushed to tie a cable to the iron pole to save him. With the help of Dong-won and Sung-won, Kim slowly began to be pulled up, but the rope broke so that Soo-young fell in the thick mud. Luckily the plants had an idea by breaking the window pane downstairs, so the mud was sucked in. And the plan worked. By nightfall, the rescue team started getting signals so the drones could be raised. Here they saw 5 survivors, while there were still 3 people who had not been found. Namely Minsun with his mother and Sung Hoon. While Ms. Shweekan was still confused whether her child was missing above or below, she also asked the officers for help to track her child's whereabouts. Sung Hoon's mother feels uneasy, because her son has not been found. The atmosphere became even more emotional with the arrival of bad news, where after tracking down the cell phone that Shweekan brought, it turned out that Shweekan was also trapped in the hole. The next day the rescue team was still looking for ways to evacuate the victims, and tonight it is expected to rain very heavily, which has the potential to cause further landslides. Day in short, starting at night, the trapped people received supplies in the form of food, drinks, satellite phones, and breathing apparatus. Here Dong-won gets a call from his wife saying Shweekan is downstairs, and hasn't been found. Without thinking, he wanted to save his son alone, by being guarded using a safety rope held by his friends. At the same time, it started to rain, so the captain of the rescue team took the risk to come down directly to evacuate. But not long after, the nearby building also collapsed and fell into the hole. Again, the plan had to be cancelled. Those below were shaken too, so that Dong-won's safety harness fell off. Fortunately, down there Dong-won managed to find Shweekan after a tiring search. Then they saw an old woman who was none other than Minsun's mother. The grandmother said that her son was seriously injured until he was unconscious. Besides that, there is also Sung Hoon, who turns out to be dead. Since the place is about to sink, Dong-won invites the grandmother to leave, but the invitation is rejected because the grandmother wants to continue with her son Minsun. As a result, Dong-won only went alone with Shweekan. The journey to the top was not easy, especially with the heavy rain. Of course, the tension didn't end here. There were other buildings above them that could fall at any time. Besides that, heavy rainwater had also begun to flood the place. They began to collect all objects that could float to be used as buoys. Then suddenly Sungyeon came carrying a large water reservoir. This object became the only hope for them. One by one people began to enter except for Sungyeon. Soon the walls of the hole began to leak and spit out a lot of water, so that the reservoir began to float upwards, but not long after that the building above them fell. Even though the tank was able to escape from the pressure of this building, they still had to deal with a new problem, namely entanglement in the network cable. Unfortunately, just after releasing the reservoir, it hit a sharp iron until it leaked, and unexpectedly Sungyeon came to help. It turned out that he was still alive, thanks to the respirator earlier. With the cooperation between them, again the problem can be solved. Here, Kim also swiftly closed the leak of the reservoir using his hands. In short, they all managed to float to the surface of the water, and luckily the officers were aware of their presence. Instantly a happy and sad atmosphere mixed there, happy because there were survivors, sad because some had died.